You know me. I'm Jake Ewert, and I drive Hydra. And this is the RoboCast.
Hello everyone, my name is SamuelIt64 and welcome back to the RoboCast with myself and World of Woodrow.
I like the gap there.
Well, it's the case
Leaving room just in case we need to insert it later.
Exactly, we can always do it in post. And obviously, as you would have heard in the intro, we are joined by the bad boy of BattleBots himself, Mr. Jake Ewert. Jake, how are you doing?
Oh, plenty happy after this episode, right?
Absolutely.
So many actually good fights after the previous week. So,
I mean, I'd say last week's episode was there. It was an episode, but this week, as you kind of said, it kind of was just so much more. There's a lot of excitement going on, wasn't there? This week?
You can't have a break and then come back to that. That's bad for numbers of viewers.
It's a shame because, again, credit to all the teams. It's unfortunate that sometimes the fights don't plan out the way you want to. But you're right. Like this week was a lot more. They probably should have switched these two around. I don't know.
Definitely should have switched these two around. if you're in sort of looking at the, as you just said, it's the come back to a good episode. You start off the season with a really good episode, and you want to come back. I wonder if they knew going into this season that there would be that sort of mid-season break for the March Madness and everything, or whether that was sort of a late game find out. And
no, they had the schedule out for us, like which episodes we were going to be in. And then they went ahead and changed it. Even after they had posted the main schedule of their brackets, they changed it, pushed it. So they didn't know prior to even the first couple of episodes, because it changed after the third episode or something like that all these fights were a different week.
Yeah. We'd planned to have this guest on and that guest on, looking at all the schedules and everything, and then every week so far it's been, hey, guess what, we're changing guests again.
You don't. Jake, the last time we spoke to you was all the way back at the start of season 6, when you lost to Endgame. Quite a lot has changed since then. You had that kind of, let's say, difficult pre-season with Hydra last season, and that amazing run through the bracket all the way to the semi-finals. It just didn't quite work out in the end.
Yeah, we don't talk about that season.
I don't know.
It started bad, it ended bad. Just
like from where you were at that point, like it was obviously quite a low, having to fight your way to get into the bracket, I'm sure, but to finish as a semi-finalist, that must have been quite happy at least, because it's the furthest you've gone with Hydra.
Yeah. Every year we went 1 year, one spot further. So it was nice, kind of getting a little bit farther every time. So of course this year we got to get that one step further, which would be the finals, right? So that's what we're looking for. And previous history shows that we have a good chance of making it.
We'll see how the rest of the season pays out.
Yeah, no spoilers. Sorry.
No spoilers. Before we crack on with the rest of the podcast, we must, of course, once again remind you that we are sponsored by Robots Ruin My Life, the merch shop for the Ripperoni, Starchild, and P1 teams. The link is in the description, and use the code RoboCast at checkout for 25% off. It's a good deal. You may as well get yourself some excellent swag while you're over there. Jake, your season to date looks a little bit like this. Wins against Rotator and free shipping and
graphic.
I know. I'll tell you
Somebody's been a busy boy this week.
I did this about an hour before we started recording. The notable omission there is the loss to Tantrum. Obviously, it was picked up as this big rematch.
Oh yeah, they pushed it so hard, and of course, me looking at it, it's like, oh yeah, please stop putting it everywhere.
I mean, were you keen to fight them again after how things happened last season? Obviously, it was a very, let's say, contentious fight with the internet.
I didn't need to have that fight again. No,
really?
No, not really. No, I would rather not had that one. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of other people to fight, and you don't need to do multiples of the same time. It's kind of like free shipping too. But I guess in that case, they could see the evolution of the two bots over a few years. This was like the same bots, like back to back, and there was really no difference. So
we've said for a lot of this season that the committee who put together the fight schedules and everything this time round I'm hoping they're getting it all out of their system in putting same weapon types together, putting rematches together, building up those storylines and things, and the story being exactly the same as they told it last time. It after a while it sort of goes, okay, show me something new. Because we've seen these fights, and Hydra can flip free shipping. Great. Can it still flip free shipping? Yep. Great.
Yes, it can.
Move on.
Well, you can't go against every, top tier bot. They got to give you somebody that's not near the top. But I mean, free shipping came with a different design, so it was different. It could have ended completely differently. In the first match, I only really got the one good flip against them. So
Very
I
true.
guess in that case, it
this
could have been
this time
quite a
around
bit
you had
different.
your full 3 minutes.
Yeah, I guaranteed that. Yeah, I was making
Right.
sure I got all my judges' decisions in this.
I just thoroughly enjoyed the count out happening, and then you go in for more flips. It's just like, nah, we've got time.
There's plenty of time. Yeah, you don't want to get that KO because I mean, on paper, yeah, it looks great to get KOs, but selection committee and everybody else just showing, they see what happens and the domination that it was. I mean, the couple fights that I did win, I mean, it really wasn't even close, right?
We'll get to the fourth fight a little bit later on. Obviously, the other fight, kind of to just briefly highlight it, against let's say a struggling rotator. Were you kind of nervous going into that one, given the amount of trickery that Victor has up his sleeve?
Victor was much over his head before that match that there was no trickery going to happen. But yeah, it was. I mean, to him, he had to put the bot in that day, or he'd have two fights the next day, kind of thing. So it was put it in pretty much weak, where it was still working, kind of. But I mean, it's still a dangerous bot, whether it's working with one more. I didn't know this at the time. I figured he was bringing it in. It was ready to work. I thought just the drive was kind of irky on it. But, I mean, he seemed to drive it around the box pretty well. He almost got to my sides a couple of times, but didn't. So, but yeah, I mean, for some reason, he flew really far, like long too. Usually Hydra goes up in the air, but the one flip just went like over top of the whole what do you want to call it, shelf, which was like the best shot I think I've ever had with Hydra. So yeah, it was fun. Plus he's a dense bot, so really any flip is kind of more center of mass.
Wow. Let's talk about some list of questions, shall we? We've got a number we've kind of asked about the internet, see which different social medias have got some questions for you, Jake. I'm sure you'll be pleased to know that there's nothing today to do with the cowcatcher, although there was quite a lot who were asking about it. If it was going to be
of course, yes. Let's relive that a few more times. But at least I'm on the winning end of that. Just think of Jonathan having to relive that all the time.
Poor guy, bless him. Let's start off with Zach Ewert on Twitter and Kikoto on Discord. They ask kind of similar questions, and they start with, who would win in a Waiachi Rumble between Hydra, Fusion, Sao, and Warrior? No love for Falcon, apparently.
No, definitely not. If they're all going at the same time, Hydra. Only because Sao is going to get stuck in a corner by somebody else, and then eventually I'll have to take out Fusion. And Warrior Clan will just kind of sit in the corner and be armored brick. It probably won't die, but it's the quality of that bot compared to the other three are not even close. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Hydra. Obviously, I drive the thing, and it's more of defensive bot, so it should work just fine. But Fusion would be the second hardest because it does have the wedge game and the big spinner on it. So I gotta hope that Sao kind of hits it a few times.
I'm sure this has been asked before, and given that we've seen this season Blip fight Tantrum, is there a reason why you've not fought Fusion before? Would you like to fight Fusion on BattleBots?
I don't necessarily want to fight my own bots, and we've kind of said that if we did ever get that fight, that it would just be us against the arena. So it could be. I mean, Trey and Greg have a little bit of say on who it is, but there's other strings being pulled of whose fights are whose. But the chance that Waiachi bots have went against each other has actually been pretty good. The first couple seasons, when we got into the tournament, our second fights would have been each other. But until Hydra got in there, we've never made it out of the first round, so we never actually got to see it. So they've tried to before. They just haven't physically perfectly done it in the fight night rounds. But in the tournament, we've been matched up 2 times for sure, and possibly a third time that our second matches would have been each other.
Okay, fair enough.
James Williams on Facebook asks, would you ever consider coming to the UK with a UK live event legal version of Hydra to show the Brit Flippers how it's done?
There is no legal version of Hydra that I could bring there. Is the problem. They would have to give me a special waiver to use my accumulators, and then I can come over there and kick all their asses.
You've heard it here first, Shane.
They always say on the UK live scene, if you can catch a robot, you can keep it. And I don't think the odds have ever been better if the Hydra was going to be in the ring, because it flips so goddamn well. Yeah, it really does. And this season has not been any slouch. And I haven't changed anything between this season and last season. It's just I don't know why the bots are going as high as they are, but they're kind of getting punted, and it's must be really weird to be focusing on your bot driving, and then all of a sudden you got to look 12, 16 feet in the air up at your bot. And it's probably not fun. I've never been on the receiving end of this, so I don't know. So
there's still time.
Yeah, there's still time. Yes.
I told a lie. There is actually a bike rack question that's snuck in. Richard Hard Facebook asks, "Why do bad boys like bike racks?"
I hope you got a big trunk because I'm sticking my bike in it. No, I'm not quite sure why everybody's fixated on the bike rack. I mean, it could be something to do with the UK and Razer being kind of the same thing, or just the blatant cheating that it was. I don't know. People should get over it. I think Jonathan has already, so we can probably. I mean, at least I was on the winning end. So I can say, yeah, it worked, right? But it could have went like any gimmick against Huge. That usually ends up getting shredded. You know, Bronco did the horn, got shredded. Everybody else has done a gimmick against him, has pretty much lost. So it was a huge chance, and we just happened to come out on top. You know, I was giving him bear hugs the whole time. I was loving on his bot. So.
If I had the arm reach for every time, or a little bit more arm reach for every time that somebody brought up the bike rack, I'd have this much arm reach.
Yeah. Well, and
there's that
I mean, after that fight, it was the funnest thing because the memes that came out of it and stuff, and I mean, me and the kids were having fun with it afterwards, and everybody thought, "Oh, he's just a jerk," and he's like, "No, we're just chilling over here."
I suppose. I don't know how to really describe it, really, but like I suppose the only way of like putting it is like, you know, ultimately, there's nothing in the rules to say that you can't do that. Okay, it's a boring fight, but like at the end of the day, you don't want Huge to wail on Hydra because it's a scary robot, and
yeah, you know, well, the chance that it wasn't a boring fight and I got ripped to shreds was still pretty high.
Yeah,
I mean, Dick, my teammate, coming into that day, he gave me about 5% chance of it actually working. It's like super thin steel tubing. It was nothing. If he actually touched it, it would have got ripped to shreds, and then I would have got ripped to shreds. So it was kind of my only option. But really, any vertical now should just have a bike rack. They really should. Coming outside of their weapon. That way, Huge can't touch them. But when Huge gets turned sideways, their vertical weapon's still sticking out from the bike rack. And I'm waiting for somebody to do it because it's going to be the way to beat Huge.
Yeah.
But nobody's going to want to do it. They don't want to risk taking all their armor off to put a bike rack on. But I already showed it can be done.
Definitely.
Helen Claudio on YouTube asks, who do you want to fight most out of the teams you haven't fought yet? And who do you dread most of those you haven't fought yet?
Dread. That's a tough one. I don't know if I kind of went against a lot of the top tiers already. The Witch Doctors, Hypershocks, Endgames. I mean, any one of those is going to end up probably not so great. I mean, they're all pretty close fights. But, I don't know. Probably a big one-hit wonder of some kind would be worse. Something really, really big spinners. I mean, there's always the Tombstone. Nobody ever wants to go against Tombstone. But is he the most dreaded? I mean, it could end up like the Megabyte fight where it just gets tossed around.
Fancy something like a Ripperoni these days? You know, they've been doing pretty well this season.
Yeah, I mean, that thing's dangerous, and while it's all over the place, gyroing, and that was kind of like an uppercut fight. I mean, I
Yeah,
did
true.
take it to uppercut, but this one's maybe a better uppercut. I can't say that for sure yet, but yeah, that
Ripperoni
would be
has
pretty.
chaos on its side, I think, which helps it a lot and doesn't help anybody else out in the slightest because you just don't know what it's going to do next.
Right. I mean, huge is probably still the biggest threat. It really is. It's if I can't use the bike rack again and I got to go vert mode. Okay, there still is this, but I'm still not giving it a lot. They got it pretty dialed in where it's smacking pretty hard now. So that'd probably be my most dreaded. Even though I don't want to give it to him, I have to.
And in terms of who do you want to fight most out of the teams you haven't yet?
Oh, give me somebody easy, somebody I can just throw around for 3 minutes. That was supposed to be free shipping, but he died at the end, which usually he does not die, which is strange because he's been ripped apart many times by spinners and never really truly died. I mean, one wheel and he's still driving around, but I finally took him out. So
Must felt pretty good.
yeah, I mean, you want to go against your friends, I guess, that aren't going to damage you too much. But I know if I come back next season, there's a list of bots that I'm gonna have to go up against. I know it, and it's gonna be Riptide, it's gonna be Tombstone, it's gonna be huge. You're gonna want to get those out of the way right away, and probably a fusion one just to be dinks about it. So.
Now you've said that, yeah.
Yeah, I've set the
your
precedence. So maybe I'll just back out of next season, so I don't have to do that,
Oh,
that gauntlet.
please, don't you dare! No.
I mean, I've tried selling Hydra already. This is no joke. It is ready for retirement. It's whether or not somebody's willing to take it off my hands would be nice because I don't like playing the ground game. I mean, Paul started the ground game, and then with the wedgelet piano keys, whatever you want to call it, I kind of perfected the ground game, and now everybody's just matching it. But it really sucks to have to play, honestly. I wish they'd make a rule to change it.
I think that it's not a listener question, but that sparked my next question is, if not Hydra, what would you bring?
Oh, I would bring an uppercut, except the spinner can turret down to a horizontal.
Ooh, I like it. I like it.
Yeah, so it's a tombstone that can also flip sideways and become an uppercut.
I like it.
It's a cool design.
Yeah, pretty much totally offensive. No ground game playing, no fun like that. No, just bring a big weapon and hit with it.
Let's see what happens.
Otherwise, a drum. Drum has been my baby for almost 15 years now with Falcon. So not new Falcon, BattleBots Falcon, old school Falcon, where we won.
Middleweight Falcon.
Middleweight Falcons won so many times. That was my baby because it was just no real ground game. It was just weapon and go at people. It's really easy to keep your front end when you don't have wedges to stop you all the time.
Definitely. We actually had a couple of questions from Matt Spurk, the Kraken captain on Facebook as well.
Oh, of course he would be in here trolling, sure.
Well, his first question is, have you started making the Every Show Needs a Villain plaque for Riptide yet?
I don't know why everybody thinks that. I mean, he's a little on the spectrum, but he's not that bad, right? We were pitted right next to him. So it was kind of sad, actually, to see all the negativity that was coming his way. And, of course, we're sitting right there, so we had to be nice to him. So we were kind of the buddies of Riptide this season, which we didn't have to battle him, so we didn't have a problem with him. But we did have like cameras all over our pits because I've had one thing stolen from us out of the pits before, so it's we could have seen any shenanigans that were happening in the pits, let's say that, and we didn't see anything. So that might help any rumors that happened throughout the season of stuff that was happening with Riptide. We didn't see nothing. I mean, we were right there.
The other question he had we'll save for a little bit later on, I think. Gentlemen, do you want to carry on?
I agree. Lloyd on YouTube asks, given how diverse spinners can be in the sport, do you want to see more variety and perhaps innovation in flippers at BattleBots?
flippers are gonna die. That breed will die if it continues to be this wedge war where any vertical spinner can put a wedge on and pretty much beat you 50% of the time. Being a flipper, you need to win 100% of the time or you lose. So until the wedge war is fixed by either forcing powered wedges where they got to have like forks that actually articulate, that way somebody can't just slap on little fingers and call it done. That might help. But until that, people are just silly to make flippers. They really are. I mean, I have a flipper, and I think it's a stupid idea.
I mean,
yeah, the Ripperonis of the world and the Star Childs, the new types of spinners are fun. But everybody knows kind of what wins right now. So until that changes and somebody can go deep enough with a unique design, I think it's just going to continue.
I mean, when you turn up to BattleBots like you have this season and you see the new kind of anti-Uta barriers, if you like, at the sides, does that kind of sort of like further cement in your mind, what am I doing with a robot of this type?
Absolutely. Well, these particular Utas were anti-everybody else, not anti-Hydras.
Yeah.
I can still get above that bar. But it's not flipper friendly, the box. It's bad. They took out all the outer arenas. Now they're taking out the corners. I mean, they banned the corners one season, and that didn't help. People still threw people out there. So then they put up little barriers, and so far it's kept people from getting out there. But I mean, if I get somebody in the corner, I'm definitely going to dump them out there. But it's just the floor meta where it's just complete trash, really. The seams between the modules, I get stuck on those constantly. It's not fun playing the ground game, and it makes anything but a spinner really difficult.
And if you don't play the ground game, obviously, I mean, you more than most, obviously, it scuppers your chances. But like if you don't play the ground game, if you're anybody, then it's just like, well, I'm just going to lose all my fights. Unless you deliberately go about not playing it, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, there's certain spinners, Witch Darts the world, that don't play ground games, and they've done well because they are weapon out front. They hit people. The same goes for Death Roll. That thing literally rolls all over the arena and does pretty well. But yeah, if you get somebody that has ground game, you're gonna get hit a lot because of it, which sucks because Endgame can just throw on little crappy wedges on his front like he does everywhere else, and then he can now win. Before, when he had to go with his solid wedges, it was, at least the 50-50 that people were getting underneath him, he was getting it. So it was a back and forth. But everybody that has Hydra wedges now is, makes for super lame fights, because they even had a little stick in this episode about everybody getting stuck on the floor, and it doesn't make for great stuff.
No. Yeah, it is kind of not the most aesthetically pleasing to the eye. Kind of just seeing everyone just hit a brick wall every time they
right. It's like, why are they stopping? Why aren't they moving? Why aren't they being aggressive? Well, I can't, man. I can't get across the box. There's a force field there, and I just cannot pass this.
Kyle from Team Hypershock asks, if you could rework or replace one of the 3 judging criteria, so damage, aggression, and control, how would you change it?
Well, one, I would want damage to not be just superficial damage, because Hydra creates damage and you don't necessarily see it, but the bot's like, hey, the bot's not moving now. Okay, well, what was it? That you can't actually see it. So that I would want to be more detailed. But otherwise, you know which one I'm going to complain about. The control aggression style of, oh, I'm spinning around in circles, I'm being aggressive. No, you're not pointing your weapon at me and running around. That would be the one that I would want changed, so that I can sit in turret. Okay, well, you're not coming into me either, so whatever. I mean, watching a Hydra fight live is different than watching it back, because you can pause it. You can actually see how much of a snake effect, we'll call it, where you can see me lunge forward, take an attempt, and then back to my spot. Whereas a spinner can just rotate. It's doing a gyro dance, but it's literally just rotating. At least I attempt to make an aggressive move at it. But yeah, that comes right back to the ground game. Sucks to play the ground game.
That it does.
You kind of already answered a bit of this question, which came from PB2 on 18 on Discord, who asked, do you still have the Hydra vert set up? You do. You discussed it. Aiden Muted takes this further, asking, why have you not used it, if so? And Living Murphy's Law asks, is there a robot other than Huge and now Starchild you'd use it for?
No, I would not use that particular vert for anybody else other than those two, because it is a big vert. And it's so big that it would be the most powerful vert that there is, because it's literally like having Sal vertical. It's just ridiculous amount of energy into it. So I don't know how it would actually drive. I have little forkies that come out the sides and the front so that I don't gyro dance as much, or at least I catch myself from flipping over. But I can't put it in against somebody else. But I was thinking about just making a little smaller spinner to put in there instead, so I can do a little more damage. Definitely have less KE, but it would be more like a fusion vert, where it'd be a lot smaller, but it would do plenty enough damage for what I need. I need reliable. Fusion this season hasn't been reliable necessarily on keeping the weapon spinning. Even if you have a crappy spinner, right? It's just not doing any damage, but it's still spinning and still looking cool. You get all the aggression, you get the damage points, you get all that good stuff, and you can win matches that way. Problem is, we always go for KOs. And the way the bots are built now, it makes it a lot more difficult to get KOs. Even, these really, really big bots end games, they're not getting KOs every match anymore because the bots are just more durable. So I would rather go with something that's way more reliable, smaller, but
hit more often.
Yeah.
Points.
I mean, you would be a lot more afraid of going up Hydra if it had a little spinner there than the flipper, because a lot of people aren't afraid to actually get flipped. They're like, oh, may I have another? May I have another? We've seen that every match, so.
It's very true. Final question before we crack on with the fights comes from friend of the podcast, Charlie Hubbard on Discord, and they say, as a respectable Wisconsinite yourself, the important question is, Culver's a worthy representation of the state or overrated garbage?
I do like their butter burgers, but I would rather go to Taco Bell.
Ooh.
Just saying. Yeah.
We'll leave it at that then. Let's talk about some fights. Let's talk about some fights. The episode starts off.
Fights this week.
There were some fights that happened. Starting off with LockJaw and Mad Catter.
BattleBots Fight of the Week, and
wait, it was?
Apparently so. It's on YouTube now.
I didn't get the Fight of the Week again. Team Watch was on a roll there for a while.
They haven't put a main event as the Fight of the Week in so many weeks, and it's starting to upset me.
I'll be honest. So a group of friends of mine kind of do a similar thing where we kind of rank which fight we kind of have for a kind of a bonus fantasy point, if you like. And this is what I put in there, just because it was just pure chaos towards the end. Like, I at one point, I'm pretty sure LockJaw gets turned over, and you just think, oh yeah, Mad Cat's just going to win now because it's done the damage.
LockJaw's over. Nope.
No.
Mad
Cat just dies.
We did watch Donald for like 2 minutes not be able to hit that bot when it was completely defensive. So it's like, what is your problem? You could have won the match for a super long time, but he's like messing around with the little bot, and then when he comes into Mad Catter, he completely whiffs with the spinner. It's like, come on, you had it in the bag, and then Mad Catter just makes that last run at him and gets that huge hit. And
I do wonder whether Donald was just being a bit careful. Like the weapon of Mad Catter is still going when it's kind of stuck against the wall, isn't it? And it's he kind of
he had the side so many times it was not even. It was like, what are you doing? Just go in and hit him already. But
it was sort of love tapping it to almost go, yeah, I've hit it. I don't.
He didn't even touch it with the weapon, though. That's the thing. It's just, man, Donald. It was infuriating. It really was watching that match, and that's why I would not put it as the fight of the week, because it's like, yeah, it was chaotic, and there was a few good hits in the first part, but
there's a lot of dead time in that fight.
Yeah, where they're just kind of like not doing anything and not hitting each other. Great, fun.
It's one of those fights where watching it live, the amount of time spent not hitting each other felt a lot shorter than watching it back. And that's not because they've stretched it out in the edit. That's just because when you're there watching it live, it's
It's in
exciting
front
big
of you.
hits.
It's in
Yeah,
front
it's
of you.
right there.
Yeah.
It was thrilling when Mad Catter just comes back and gets that massive hit. We were like, oh, this fight's done. They're going to start counting. So, surely they're going to start counting out soon, or it's just going to run the 3 minutes. And LockJaw's oh wait, Mad Catter's off. And it's like, whoa.
Yeah,
What's
it
going
just
on?
goes on a run and just stops again.
Yeah.
Like, how does a bot just do that? Just
You sort of see in the edit, they cut to Calvin, who just goes, yeah. But then there's very little reaction after that because it's like, I know that I've just hit him really hard, but I'm dead again now.
I wonder if it was like a pinned wheel or something that was causing it to kind of not be
LockJaw
able to
definitely
drive.
hits the back end a couple of times, where you can see then why it might start to crab walk, but I don't know.
Strange one.
what was weird was I seen Calvin in the shot there, and he was on a step stool, which is really weird. I've never seen that before.
He's always on a step stool.
Has he?
Yeah.
I've never seen that before from him. Huh.
Yeah, I think he likes to get a little bit of a better view of the arena.
Well, he's got to not be so short. It sucks being short. I mean, he was still as tall as Martin was. It's like there's the same height now. You should get a really big step ladder out there.
Is Martin a big dude? I don't know.
No, he's not super tall, no, but they were just like the same height now, even though he had a step stool.
It leaves these two, LockJaw at 3-1 and Kata at 2-2.
LockJaw's best season in years since 2018. I want to say.
I mean, they did all right in 20 when they won the bounty, didn't they?
Okay, main season.
Yeah,
Okay.
main season was horrendous.
Yeah. Okay.
They lost all of their fights in 2020.
Yeah.
And then they struggled through 2021 with smoking issues again. But
Do you know what? It was so fun. I was watching this episode again last night just to kind of recap it for today. And basically, when I was like, "Oh my god, LockJaw's got 3 minutes without catching fire," and like the last 2 seconds, it just burst into flames.
Yeah,
again.
yeah.
I'm like, for God's sake!
Those bots that like to smoke, they like to always do it. Fusion is no different.
People seem to call out Fusion a lot more than LockJaw, despite the fact I think LockJaw does it more.
I did enjoy Martin's little haiku at the start as well, which just basically called exactly what was going to happen.
Yeah.
But LockJaw, a positive record. I think a fairly decent season, all things considered. Only a small loss to SawBlaze where it kind of got beached on the wall.
Yeah.
Who was their other two fights though?
Malice and
Okay, so that's an easy fight.
Who was their other fight? I can't remember.
I'm gonna look it up. This is why we need a Steve.
This is why we need a Steve.
This is his area of expertise, or he's the gopher running for information.
He is
Yep.
very good at both, all of the above. Who was it? That's going to bother me. That is.
That's all right. I'm looking into it. Phil,
Good.
Sam, Phil.
Mad Catter at 2-2, losing to Riptide and to LockJaw beating
Glitch,
of course. Who's currently
done, sir.
0-3.
So a bot that doesn't move, Malice that he can put the ass plow on, and of course SawBlaze is a loss. So I mean, for him, this Mad Catter was probably the second hardest fight for him. So
Yeah.
I mean, the other ones are kind of gimmies so he should have won.
But you got to think, because of the setup of this season, which kind of is the setup for most robots, but not all, is your should win, should lose, bout level pegging. Like, is Malice their other level pegging one? Or is Glitch their other? Because
I suppose on historical data, and by historical data I mean Glitch's one season, where it went 7-0.
Glitch is their potential good match.
Yeah,
I think.
exactly. And
I
then,
think Malice is their gimme, just because it's a horizontal, and Donald's been known to just dominate horizontals.
I suppose so. In a word, then, Jevon, obviously I know you know, and Jake, I know you know, but in a word, LockJaw bracket, yes or no?
oh, absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, unfortunately, there's not enough bots to put him not in there.
Fair enough. Mad Catter, I'll ask the same question.
I think 2-2 against the schedule they've had, absolutely beat Whiplash to death. Had a loss to Riptide, which has been on a tear this season. Lost to
Dill.
LockJaw, who's done well, and that big Dill fight was fantastic. I mean,
It's put on good matches.
definitely. So I would say yes, but at 2-2, they're going to be lower down the list.
Yeah, I agree. I think kind of let's say between 16 and 24, kind of in that
I
kind of...
genuinely don't remember where they end up
Oh, really?
in the ranking. I don't think we ever got told where they were actually seeded at recording. We
Okay,
just saw the matches. So,
right.
yeah, that's not a thing the audience gets.
Okay. Okay, well, we assume then both of these two would be in the bracket, but we'll obviously find that in a few weeks' time. In the meantime, we'll move on to fight number 2. We mentioned Malice already. They take on Gruff this week.
Not
and,
the outcome I was expecting.
I mean,
What?
Malice did some proper damage to Gruff. Like, they twisted the whole frame. It was brutal, and I'm kind of shocked, to be honest. Where's this been
when you
hiding?
don't keep your front end at Malice, yeah, it's going to be able to do some damage to your weak
Yeah.
little backside. Yeah. But
Absolutely.
this is Gruff's match to win. I mean, this is what it's made for, horizontals.
Mhm.
I mean, where have we gone from the Tombstone match in 2019, which saw Gruff almost defeating Tombstone, to now being bullied by Malice for 3 minutes?
If it can't take out horizontals, what is it going to do? Because it's made for that, right?
Yeah,
It's really not going to take on verts. It's not going to take on anything with a fork package. It just can't. It's just not built that way.
And I think, they kind of... I mean, one thing I will say Malice has over other horizontals, I suppose, is they now also have a fork package as well. So I suppose that could be a factor. But even then,
probably helps a little bit. But a lot of those hits are still going to hit the wedge. You just can't not give them the backside.
And Gruff did exactly that, and Scott shredded
a couple of times.
Got shredded. There was that cool moment where they kind of held Malice on top with the forks and give him the full beans of the flamethrowers. That looked quite fun, but
yeah,
that looked like a really bad spot for them to be in, though, too, because like it's up by the flamethrowers. So like you push him any farther, and he's cutting through the flamethrowers. You probably should have had those a little bit protected, but I'm surprised he didn't let him roast there longer. I mean, he should have got like 20, 30 seconds to just roast.
You can't hold them for 20. Is it 20 seconds or 30 seconds these days? It is 30, isn't it?
Depends if you're moving them, I think.
Okay, so I suppose you can hold them at least for at least 20, maybe longer.
Yeah, 20 is the official grapple rules, but there's other stipulations of what you're doing with them in that time. I seem to recall there's some big holes in the front of Gruff as well. Like Malice really punches into that armor, and if Gruff are going to come back, they need to come back denser. I think denser, smaller, and
have a fork setup. They need to kind of do something.
If they come smaller, though, then they can't corral people as nicely. That's the
True.
problem.
That is true.
With Blip has that problem where it's just so tiny that it can't like get good purchase on people a lot of times. So they just roll off the sides.
We've kind of seen with Lucky this season, like how it being so vast has been quite useful in that aspect. We'll get to it a little bit later on. Gruff moving to 1 and 3, with their only win being over Ripperoni at the start of the season,
and even that wasn't a very good win. They were dead at the end. So
yeah, they obviously lost to Witch Doctor, who is on a tear. To be fair to them,
yeah,
they lost to Quantum, who was on a tear as well, and losing to a 3-1 Malice. Is it enough? Do you reckon, or do you reckon they've kind of just missed out?
If it's enough, it's a very, very low position, as Gruff tends to enter into if they do make the bracket, unfortunately. But honestly, with the lineup and just how the bot's been working or not thereof, I don't see them making it.
It depends who they want to match up. If they don't want a big horizontal in there, then they'll make sure that Gruff's in there to be that matchup, right? We've seen that with Sal plenty of times. It gets into the tournament and then it gets first big plow right away. So they can still do shenanigans with their bracket pickings to take out certain bots that it wants to.
Yeah.
Or attempt to, at least.
Absolutely. So possibly for Gruff, but possibly not. Malice at 3-1, I think probably pretty good to...
Probably will, but low. Because its wins have not been great.
Well, I mean,
this one.
It stumbled to victory against Emulsifier, didn't it?
It survived Emulsifier.
Yeah.
I think is the way we say that.
Yep.
And Valkyrie just fell apart, right?
Oh, it was Valkyrie, and they won on appeal.
Valkyrie by appeal.
Yeah, and then obviously this fight where Gruff is 1 and 3. So I'm kind of inclined to agree. kind of put Malice in the same ballpark as Mad Catter from the previous fight, kind of in and around.
I don't know. I feel Mad Catter's had a stronger strength of schedule or stronger
Definitely. I would say it's
like
ahead of
lineup
Malice.
and just how it's performed this season.
Yeah.
I would put a 2-2 Mad Catter above a 3-1 Malice personally.
Okay. We shall see. I think, as I kind of feel like Gruff has probably missed out, but we'll see what the.
It really depends on how many robots go like 3-1, 2-2. Who else goes 1 and 3? Because if there are some big names who go 1 and 3,
then they get the nod.
Yeah, absolutely. There was a chance in this episode that Hypershock could have gone 1 and 3, but with a lineup from hell, they would definitely have got in. Even if Tantrum are to lose their last fight,
or Whiplash
lose their last fight,
yeah, they get the nod.
These are all outcomes in which 1 and 3 is going to get over Gruff.
Yeah,
and
I think so.
Yeah, probably deservingly so because of the strength of schedule.
Yeah, I agree.
I really should have looked at the bracket, so I kind of knew prior to.
we can't talk about the bracket for another 3 or 4 weeks.
Well, not to talk about the bracket, but to talk about if there was any like surprises, to know
that
if there was any surprises.
Okay,
this little book has the bracket in, and I'm not looking at it.
It's a surprise for a few weeks' time.
Yeah.
Let's not talk about some bracketology. Let's talk about this fight between.
I don't know what you're talking about. This is top seed bracket.
This is the best you can get, man.
I mean,
this is like Robo Game style.
Right.
Here.
I will tell you now, they cut the best bit of this fight, which is the walkout of Numbskull and Wingerding. And I've been looking forward to that walkout for so long, and they cut it from the episode, and I will never forgive them for this.
Maybe something will surface that somebody videoed.
I hope so. I really hope so, because they put their all into that performance, and it's Oscar worthy.
I will give Zach and Diana enormous credit for having that much energy whilst running 2 robots at BattleBots.
Zach and Diana aren't on this team.
Jevon, it's okay. We can suspend the disbelief. It can be suspended for a little bit. Jake, I want to ask you a little bit about Dragon King, because the Waiachis have always kind of been like prided themselves on engineering prowess. If you wanted to turn up with just a vert, you could do, right. But that's not in your nature. You kind of build outside the box things, right?
If it's a vert, it's going to be super big and super ganglion. Yeah, we want to be different, at least a little bit different. How
do you kind of review something like Dragon King, which is just so different to everything else?
Just set my head down and shake it. Like, yeah, it's super cool. I mean, the engineering in it and everything, but as far as a competitive in BattleBots, it's like probably not so much. No.
Yeah. It's time as a combat entity is probably passed, I suppose. It should be considered a work of art more than anything else.
2018, 2019, where we had Red Devil. This is Red Devil, but who's
with
been to China.
Cleaner.
With 2 swords, yeah.
And cleaner, yeah. So, it was starting to not be competitive around that time.
But as a showbot with multiple things going on, it's great for that.
Yeah,
but yeah,
absolutely.
BattleBots, it's not.
This was a great exhibition fight.
Yeah,
I think it's a great place for this sort of robot to turn up and have a go at, because
it's something that if you told somebody, hey, I make robots, this would be a bot that you would like look at and say, hey, this is what we do, right? Yeah. But as far as battling goes, yeah, this is not the thing that you want to show off.
No. I will say, you can tell it's their first time driving it the way that it is, because there's so many actuating bits on Dragon King. I'm giving a lot of attention to Dragon King here, and we'll talk about Doomba in a second. But like the fact that I think they said they had to shrink down from 4 controllers and like 4 drivers down to 2.
Yep.
And it's just insane the amount of like mind processing you have to kind of get to kind of have everything pointing in the right direction, making sure you're grabbing things at the right time, bringing the swords down, that kind of thing. It's just mind-boggling.
They really made sure to use all of the bits on Dragon King this fight. This fight came at the end of a Saturdays were long. Saturdays had 3 filming sessions, and they finished very late in the evening. And there'd been quite a few delays, and everybody in the audience is kind of sort of starting to lag by the end of the evening. And then Doomba and Dragon King comes out, and you're just sort of at this point wondering if you're having some sort of visions of I don't know what, but it was great fun to watch. And yeah, gutted they cut the first bit of it.
One thing I want to talk about with Doomba is the pulverizer disabling their chainsaw.
Taking the battery out.
The battery just flying straight out the top. It was wonderful. And the handle just coming off before that. Yeah, Doomba's something in it. It really is something.
It do be there.
It Doomba there, yeah.
No. Yeah, I mean the chainsaw does take out one of the saws by pulling
Poking at it.
Yeah.
it
Literally just threading the needle and going.
It turned into a full knife Roomba and actually, cut off the chains and the saws. So
yeah,
amazing.
This was one of the fights
of all time. Yeah, it really was. And there's not really much else to say other than Doomba has now gone 0-2. And
I don't think either are going to make the bracket, Sam. I'm sorry.
No, I don't think so either.
That's a shame. It really is.
I thought Dragon King was going to beat Endgame. I had it down, but
yeah,
no, sadly not. Next fight. The Speed Demons, Claw Viper and Hypershock.
There's a wonderful photo on the Hypershock Facebook page of the green light still on in the box and nobody's in their starting square. Just like they're somewhere across the middle of the box. I will say, awesome driving at the very start there for Hypershock just to go, turn, drive. Because you knew Claw Viper was going in for the box rush and Hypershock was just like, nah, not happening today.
There's a great little video on the BattleBots YouTube channel where you see Pete Abramson talking to Kevin from Claw Viper, and it goes into detail as to why Claw Viper has had this kind of leap forward this season. The way that it moves is just again, it doesn't look right. It
moves like a beetle.
It moves like a beetle.
Yeah. It does not move like it's in the real world right now. No.
Yeah. But sadly, they didn't really get a chance to fight against Hypershock because Will just decided, nah, not today, mate, and just destroyed it.
I had seen some of Kyle's posts on Discord, and he was talking about how Claw Viper's running low on parts for this match already.
Oh, really?
So apparently they put a different set of back wheels on that were like super slippery. So, and watching the match back, you can actually see that his back end, like instead of stopping where it usually would just stop, it kind of slipped and went farther. And a lot of those times it did, and then Hypershock got the side and got hit. So there could have been a bigger issue where we didn't actually get to see this Speed Demon at its full potential just because he was low on parts that way.
And like kind of scrubbing off all of its speed with the wheel spin sort of thing.
Oh, that too. Yeah, you wouldn't have top speed, and when he goes to stop, it doesn't want to stop because it slides.
Some of the damage afterwards as well, you kind of see all the kind of the top, arm and lifters setup all twisted and bent to one side. It was some proper gourmet damage from Hypershock, which we haven't seen all too often this season. Obviously has had a tough schedule, but we only really saw it against Whiplash when it fought them earlier this season.
We nearly missed this
I do
fight.
not want to go against that thing.
Never again.
Well, I mean, it's scary now. We had to go against this version in Remars, and it's definitely scary. And if you get up on its weapon, it's going to send you punting pretty good. And yeah, it touched a lot of Claw Viper that's not supposed to be getting touched, especially when it was upside down.
Yeah.
And this is on a bot that's already low on parts. I mean, when Claw Viper makes it into the bracket, it's going to be a hard slog for him to get everything back up and fixed.
Yeah. Gives me shades of Yeti 2016, who's beg, borrowing, and stealing by the time they're reaching bracket stage. And I don't know whether he didn't expect to go far this time, or whether he did and just didn't prep for it enough. But yeah, I think next year, Claw Viper, when it comes back, and I hope it does, it needs to bring more spares if that is the case, and just back himself almost. But yeah,
if you
almost
look at his past performance, you wouldn't think he'd have much faith in going very far. But yeah, this was probably a surprise for him that it actually worked this year and worked really, really well.
Yeah, I think that the kind of the level that he's come in at is like, previously for Claw Viper, it's been two big fight. Okay, now that amazing fight with Bloodsport last year, but like it's kind of like two big fights, and then it's kind of fighting whoever else is left, basically, sort of thing, and then we'll go on to Sin City. But this year, it's properly going to be, they've got the 4 fights, and then they're going to have to be in the bracket because of how well they've done. So it's going to be interesting to see if they can kind of keep the form going. 3-1 Claw Viper, where do you reckon the kind of
absolutely and reasonably high up?
Where do you reckon?
I'd say mid-10s.
I think so. I think mid-10s is a good shout, actually, because it's beaten top tier. Like it's one of very few robots who have beaten the match that should have beat them, basically. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting bot. Might play spoiler in the bracket. We'll see. Yeah.
I think in and around maybe with Hypershock, actually, because them at 2-2, they lost to Endgame, who it's Endgame, and they lost to SawBlaze.
They lost to real weapons, is what they lost to.
Yeah.
Everything else didn't have a real weapon.
Yeah. So with Hypershock, I mean, I suppose you've got to kind of consider, well, it depends which Hypershock turns up. If it's this Hypershock that turns up in the bracket, then beware. If it's, Hypershock that got, bullied around the box by Endgame, then we'll see.
Again, history lesson. The more things change, the more things stay the same.
Exactly.
That's true. The bots that he went up against that had ground game, he lost to. That's a pretty simple fact. So that's what his long run is going to come to, is whether or not he gets bots that have ground game against him.
When Hypershock fights
Otherwise,
ground game, it doesn't. It plays monster trucks instead. And
right, yeah, and it ends on its top and then upside down, and then it's all kinds of fun.
We saw it with P1 last year in the bracket. Just used it like a stunt ramp.
Yeah, it was trying to get itself flipped back over because they stopped running the inverter, and I mean it's fun to watch, but it's like, again, really, you're upside down again.
It's frustrating to watch at the same time. Like, from a pure pot competition point of view, it's frustrating to watch. But from a spectator who, as a neutral, it's like, oh, great, I'm going to see Hypershock do all sorts of crazy shit.
I was having kittens all the way through this fight. I'm
not surprised.
We turned up quite late for the filming session, and everyone was seated. We got like as far near the back end of the arena on the blue side, which is like, oh wow, you're late. So we got up in there, and then they called out this first fight almost sort of 2 minutes after we got seated and everything. And I was not ready for this at this time, and so I was just like, I knew this fight was coming this evening, but not first, and not. I was like, please, for the love of God.
The stress of World of Woodrow exposed.
Wait, why'd you show up late?
I think we were out eating. This was the day we'd gone to IHOP, but a long way away, and we had to get back across Vegas.
Didn't quite work out in time.
No.
Oh dear. The adventures of World of Woodrow.
I think it was that day. I don't remember. David will be able to tell
any
us.
day is a good day when Hypershock can win for it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
This was just a fun match, all out. I was excited to see either of these robots do well, but more excited for Hypershock to do well. Sorry,
obviously.
Obviously.
Well, I think they both get the bracket, as we kind of alluded to.
Yeah.
Fight number 5, free shipping and Big Dill.
Another great fight.
Where's this Big Dill been hiding? Like, where's it
Really
been?
wish we'd seen it sooner, honestly.
This is the big deal I expect to win. Like, this is a bot that I expect to win a lot, just because of the ground game it has. I mean, yeah, it's kind of a small token weapon, but it does enough damage, just like I was talking about before. It's like, you want to put on damage and not have it die all the time, and it does perfect. It sent free shipping how many times up in the air? 6-8 feet. So it was really nice to see a big deal that worked properly.
And the fact that they have the forks as, like, if the weapon goes down, they've still got something else to kind of give you a hard time with, is also a brilliant addition.
And
there's a lot of robots doing it now. Like, I think Whiplash, obviously the spinner is on the forks, but it gives them a second option. You now got Big Dill, Terratops, Jackpot, all doing it. They've got these forks as a backup plan or as a self-writer or whatever, and it's working out well for them.
Yeah. From that kind of bright start free shipping had at the start of the season, it's kind of petered out a little bit. But I mean, the other thing you have to consider with that is who they fought. They fought Minotaur and yourself, Jake. I mean, it's not exactly an easy run for free shipping to have.
Oh no! I mean, his free match is the Gigabyte fight, and that's not a free match usually. I mean, that's a hard hitting bot, but that's what he's built for, right? He's built to take on the horizontals, and him having to put on his spinner now definitely affects his ability to take hits because he doesn't have the armor packages that he usually does.
Correct. On the flip side, you kind of got to think, well, this probably is also one of his free hits, if you like, in Big Dill, but he just got.
No, I think this is a super tough match because he's not kind of a ground game guy. So that's Minotaur might have been his gimme fight, even though Minotaur is Minotaur. It's like he might have the best chance of beating Minotaur compared to the guys who run wedges and a huge Gigabyte shell.
I mean, he has the years of experience fighting them robo games or competitions previously, so and that was a great fight in itself. Like, it was very sort of back and forth at one point until it wasn't anymore, obviously. But yeah, I think you're right.
Possibly.
Yeah, certain bots are made to take out certain bots. Even though the bot is like, top 4 bot, it's still made to take it out. So
it's kind of the wrong kind of, like, it's the scissors to their paper, if you like, or whatever else. It leaves both these two at 1 and 3. 1 and 3 for free shipping, with 3 big losses, and 2 losses to big teams and a big loss, a decent fight against Big Dill. Enough for the bracket, maybe, or maybe not.
I don't know. I think it depends on who else gets 1 and 3, who else gets 2 and 2 to see whether free shipping gets in. I think the win over Gigabyte
did have exciting matches, getting his ass kicked the whole time.
Well, absolutely. Yes. Both these robots.
So
I mean, the Big Dill versus Mad Catter
was excellent.
Is one of the fights of the season for me. And, know, I think that sort of thing should be put into the mix of deciding whether you want these in the bracket or not, because it's going to put on a good show.
Big Dill was doing well against Scorpios before it died. So again, another
and it is TV show. You could lose all 4 matches, and if you're putting on a great match all the time for TV, you're still probably going to get in. That's what this is for.
Correct. So I suppose with that said, in a word, yes or no for free shipping?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, there's only 50 bots, so you have to pick, and there's a lot of worse bots out there that I could definitely knock off the list pretty quickly.
Okay. All right. Jevon?
I don't know. It's difficult to say. I think at this point in the season, my thinking was probably not, but wouldn't be surprised if they did end up in there. But I at this point in the season, being there live, I don't want to spoil anything now, whether they are or not, but at this point in the season, when we were there, I thought probably not.
Okay. Big Dill?
I think probably should have been.
Probably should have been.
But yeah, again, at this point in the season, they'd had I don't know whether it's just I'm looking at the Mad Catter fight through tinted lenses or something, because it was such a good fight. But if free shipping's on a downward trajectory, Big Dill's on an upward. And, getting their first win here against a vet like Gary and free shipping, having the great fight against Mad Catter, which it didn't ultimately win, but was a close one, was beating Scorpios. It was getting better every fight, and that puts it in good stead for the bracket. So again, at this point in the season, when we were there, I thought Big Dill had a shot.
I think it would be ahead of probably free shipping or Gruff, for being the bricky type of push bot style, if we're going to go with styles of bots that get in, because they do potentially pick off of that too. Whereas, they don't want to see too many verts or a certain type of bot, so they maybe will give a nod to a flipper that's a little bit lower, but might diversify the final 32.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Yeah. I mean, at the moment, it's kind of hard to say without knowing everyone else's records, but I think, of the two, I'd probably just swing it in favour of Big Dill, but only just. Fight number 6, our penultimate fight of the evening, sees Shreddit Bro and Lucky.
There is some great merch of this fight now, and that's
That's about it.
yeah.
It was kind of bullying. I know we've said Shreddit Bro does get better as each fight goes along. However, Lucky is just kind of consistently very good, and that was kind of highlighted
I don't
here.
know, very good. We'll knock that down a few pegs. He's adequate for what he is.
It's 3-0, Jake. Come on now, it's 3-0.
Yeah, his 3-0 against who? Yeah, exactly.
I mean,
he's not even a flipper, really. He's more of a puncher. I mean, what's the highest he got? Somebody like 3 feet now. I mean, it's just enough to do what he needs it to do, right? And with the driver, which actually seems pretty competent now, so that's definitely. I mean, Lucky always needed a decent driver. That's the one real downfall that it ever had.
Yeah,
but very much in the sort of Matt Olson has created a new age for Lucky, I suppose, a new awakening.
Lease of life.
Yeah, that's it. Because I think it was on the down and out, and it's not anymore. It's putting on good fun fights, and as you said, 3-0, which I did not expect.
Against Triton, though. Come on, Kraken. Come on, and Shreddit Bro.
Hey, now,
I mean,
come on.
This
is
the top tier of the F classes.
This is Tombstone, SawBlaze, and Minotaur.
That's the equivalence of that.
Yeah,
the toy versions.
I do want to come to Shreddit Bro quickly. I mean, the fact that they kind of got toasted behind the screws. How frustrating.
how
it fits just perfectly.
I know.
It does. And it fits so nicely that it doesn't even get touched by the kill saw. Kill saws? No, the screws.
Screw. It was kind of. It was leaning against. I've been here. Leaning against the wall, behind it. Didn't just couldn't get out. Could they?
Nothing.
No,
nothing.
I don't think the weapon was working.
I expect the bot to get better. I mean, his smaller bots are good, really good. Problem is, he builds the big bots like he builds the small bots. I mean, the 1 year the drum just fell out. So come on, Pain Train. It was. Yeah. There's definitely been some learning curve, I think, for those guys to build heavyweight style mounting of everything compared to it's not a Beetle. Mm-hmm. But they have growing pains. I mean, it was a brand new build season, and I watched them in the test box before touches, and their wheels weren't really touching the ground, and they're spinning. So no clearance issues and stuff like that. So, I mean, it's a drum spinner, and once he gets it driving and spinning, he could probably do pretty well with it.
Yeah. In the Horizon fight, we heard the drum spinning quite nicely, but the wheels just not touching the ground as they should have done. We went out with Luke from Behind the Bots on the Monday before recording even started, and they were buying things to try and sort that issue, and it's still taken quite a long time for them to sort that issue.
Coupled with all the Vesk issues that they had as well.
Yeah.
Probably wasn't ideal.
But yeah, so it was moving better in the second fight and this fight, but the drum wasn't working as well. So perhaps they put the whole package together for their last fight. Who knows? We'll have to wait and see, I suppose. But yeah.
Then that's their next fight's against Overhaul, so that's all wedge, all plow. So that's probably not going to be a super easy fight for them either.
No. And Lucky's next fight is against Kobolds. Which,
and that's not going to be an easy fight for them.
That's a proper test, isn't it? That's a proper test, isn't it? I mean, if they can beat Kobold, then a 4-0 Lucky with the win against Kobold kind of puts them.
Then I will give it to them. Then if they can beat Kobold handily, then okay, you're to a certain threshold of you're there, but not until then.
It's kind of
not yet.
If they're beating them, then they're kind of up there and kind of think, okay, they're going to be a serious threat, but. I suppose you're kind of right with the opponents, and that
I expect it not to be many hits, and it's going to be done with because that's just what Cobalt does.
Yes, Cobalt is a
especially with their new fork package. Their Hydra-esque fork package. They look eerily similar. I don't know why.
Did you have any contact with John over the off season, Jake? Or
Oh, yeah. And in fact, he had us make these prior to the Remars event.
Oh, no way.
We had seen these prior, and I
And
don't.
you made
Can we talk about Remars?
Yeah, go for it. You know,
It
why
was
not?
ages ago.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we actually went against Cobalt in Remars with their wedge style, right? And of course, got underneath them right away, punted them, and they hit the door without the flippies on, and then they flipped themselves out of the arena. So it was like one hit and it was done. But I've seen these work. I mean, I use them every day, so I know that it's a dangerous bot. But that's the one thing Cobalt didn't have was ground game, and now that it has okay ground game, I wouldn't say it's still the best, just because the bot gyros so much that it really can't keep them on the ground. But they got the new drivers in there too. Old drivers. I guess.
Moldy.
New
Whichever way you
old
wanna roll with
driver.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I see Cobalt being pretty competent in the rest of the season for sure, especially now that they got the ground game issue pretty well squared away.
Mm. Tough one
Somebody
for
in
Lucky.
here
But
might have
Lucky's going down.
might
I'm
have
just calling
picked
it now.
Cobalt to win the season.
No.
Really?
Somebody up there.
I would
might
not
have
give
done.
Cobalt to ever win.
I might have.
There's always that one hard counter that can beat them.
Mhm.
Yeah, I might have said at the start of the season Cobalt would win this season. Who
Absolute
knows?
madness.
That's
knows?
okay. I mean, every bot's got a chance until you actually see them.
It's making me regret my life choices. Our final fights. Jake, this is all you. Taking on
Oh no, not this one.
SawBlaze. Yeah, give us some kind of. How was your mental state before the fight? Give us a little
I
bit
know
of
this
a
because we
peek into
spoke
the
to you.
a peek into the window.
Yeah. Well, why don't you say it how it was first, and then I'll comment.
I think
How are we doing?
you said to us you were looking forward to putting Hydra back together after this fight, because you thought it was going to be a bit decimation-y.
Yeah, for sure. I was expecting 50-50, right? Back and forth. I mean, he's got great ground game. That's what he's known for.
Mhm.
Or sneaking around, great driving, get around the edge. I mean, everybody knows you can't get around Hydra for the most part. So that every match I go on expecting to get ripped apart, and am glad that I'm not at the end. But I was not expecting such just an ass kicking, I guess. And the first couple flips, he actually just posted on his Facebook of the damage that he actually took, and his forks went down too hard when they hit because they're physically stopped, and it curled the bottom pan down. So after the first two flips, he couldn't drive anymore. Like he literally couldn't go anywhere because all the weight was off of his forkies there. So it was, I mean, it was lucky for me to get that because eventually he was going to get underneath me, but long forks and him not being able to get to the side and push me up far enough to get his hammer saw in there, and it was a saving grace that it went the way it did, really, because SawBlaze is known to take it to you fairly hard, and the rest of his matches were no different. I mean, he went against really good bots and just decimated a lot of them, so it was lucky. We'll put it that way. I don't think I could win that 50% of the time. And of course,
it was, but he kept trying for the front end.
That's what they do. People get Hydra hysteria when they go up against
everyone
this thing.
thinks just like, maybe this time.
Well, that's the thing. They're not afraid of the flipper, right? So they just
Yeah.
keep trying it. Eventually, if they get underneath, then they can do the damage. So they can just keep coming after me, and then it doesn't matter to them. I think. I mean, I've never went against a bot that I've not been able to get under, and just to keep attempting the same thing over and over again. But maybe that's what they're thinking, is just, okay, this time didn't work, let's try the next time, and they only got to get the one, really. If they get underneath and they finally get there, then they can do some damage. But he got underneath a couple times, but he has no reach with the arm when the bot's poking out so far, so he could only hit the front armor, and that didn't really do much.
No.
I mean,
And he couldn't drive. He couldn't push me because he was physically damaged. So he couldn't get the scoop and slash like he usually does.
The other question we had from Matt Spurk earlier on was what was going through your head when SawBlaze finally did get you on the wedge the first time? Were you expecting a big,
I had full reverse and I was just going. That's not a spot I want to be with. I didn't during the match, I didn't notice that he couldn't really drive because I was trying to stay on him as much as possible when he was getting flipped, so he would just like reverse and come right back down on top of me.
Mhm.
But you can see in that match that we both, like, first off, box rush, both smashing the seams the whole
Yes.
time. So yeah, the wedge game sucks, right? Had we have just had, forks on or rounded stuff and made it an actual flipping battle or, a driving battle, then it would be different. But you got to play the wedge game, and if he gets underneath me, he wins for the most part. So I have to win being a flipper to get underneath them. And apparently they're not afraid of damage. Well, like every other bot, they just, I can take a flip, but I'm still working. Good. Let's try this again. Mm-hmm.
Didn't quite work out in the end.
SawBlaze is not a good matchup for anybody. It's armor first, and even if you hit it, it's hitting huge armor, and then they finally bring down the attack that nobody's ready for, and just smashing people.
Yeah,
and
it is
lucky.
It is a beast. It is an absolute beast. We had another question from Connor Smith on YouTube who asks, with the late flipping that you had on free shipping and in this fight indeed SawBlaze, was this out of respect for the opponents to avoid KOs, or was this to troll the judges to make them work?
Yeah, that's the second one for sure. Yeah. On paper, a KO looks great, right? And I'm technically wrecking my really good record of KOs and against and for doing that way, but it's not that I'm a jerk trying to get more damage against them, because obviously Hydra doesn't do that much damage when it's actually flipping, but it was an entertainment value for the show in general, just to see things go a little bit farther, get some more box time in there. And I'm not real sure what the answer is, why I want it to keep going to the judges. I mean, I'm hoping that they just pick the wrong one and the fans can trash them for another year or so.
I don't think there was any danger of them choosing SawBlaze in this fight. I mean,
but yeah, it was just to keep it so no KOs.
Yeah,
not sure. I probably should have came up with a better answer for that, but
the refs keep telling you to re-engage.
Quit corralling. Yeah,
yeah,
that'd be fun.
It leaves you and SawBlaze both 3-1. Where
neither getting in, I don't think.
I mean, no, it's 50-50. No,
probably 32 seed.
I mean, they were playing this fight up as a chance for top seed. I don't know whether that was for both of you
for
or
SawBlaze. I would say
yeah.
this was number one seed if he won for sure. Yeah.
Given that
me,
he didn't though, where do you
probably top 10 then for both of us?
Oh really?
I'd say
I mean, our only losses were to last year's champion and then him to me, so it's not really bad losses. And the rest of the matches for both these bots were just, wiping the floor with their opponents. So it's
yeah.
I don't think any two other bots, even endgame, had more dominant fights than these two bots.
No, fair enough. Where would you put yourself then? If you were the selection committee, where would you put Hydra at this stage?
The first one hurts me. Probably 6 or 7. And then SawBlaze obviously has to go behind me then, so like 8, 9, someplace in there.
Okay, fair enough. We will see in a few weeks' time how close you got. But
right, yeah. It's hard not to pick the right number, I guess. Or did I pick the right number?
or did he? Who knows? We have got a couple more questions before we finish off. One coming from Sean Peterson on Facebook, and they ask, if they ever bring a walker class back, would you build another Son of Waiachi that walks again?
Probably not a Son of Waiachi, but a walking death style, where it would be a 2-legged beam post, and then each leg would actually have a spinner around it. So it'd be 2 independent tombstones just walking around the box. It doesn't have to move fast; just has to move. So that would be the key. But you'd be 500 pounds or so, plus you have magnets in the bottom. It would be an moving arena hazard at that point.
I suppose the other question is kind of from me, really, in the sense that you've kind of highlighted a couple of times where you you'd consider selling Hydra and doing something different.
Anybody want to buy it?
I definitely don't have
we
enough
would,
money.
but we're not allowed to run it. So.
If you want to keep it and maintain it over the winter, we'll come and
Oh
price
no,
it
no
next season, yeah?
maintaining. No.
Oh, okay.
I'll store it for you. Does that count?
Okay, I mean, we'll have our people contact your people. But would it mean more to you to win BattleBots with Hydra than, say, your standard Vert, let's say? Because, like, how much would it mean to you to kind of finally win BattleBots with something that's just not the norm?
I can't win BattleBots.
You don't think so?
Hydra, I don't think.
Really?
No. Except for this season. But future seasons, if I go to redo this,
so you kind of miss the boat sort of thing?
Yeah. If I was in Broncos seasons, I would have whopped the floor with all of them. It's just, that's how bots are nowadays. Any bot now, well, not any bot, but the top 10 bots now could probably have won the first 2-3 seasons pretty handily. So it's that. It came in at the wrong era, even though, I mean, let's talk about Bronco. Bronco was dominant-ish in its era, and now with the bots escalating to the point that they're at now, but yet I'm still dominant or as dominant or more dominant than what Bronco was. It's just the evolution of bots has been changing, and it's only going to get harder if you're a non, big spinning weapon bot. I think that's kind of the only way to really do it, because ground game's out right now.
It's quite a somber note to end it on, really. But Jake, thank you, thank you very much for joining us.
And one day we'll all die and it won't matter.
Don't forget, Doomba wins this season.
Well, there you go. What are you doing at the moment? Where can people find you doing fun stuff on the internet at the moment?
Oh, well, you can come check us out on live stream. I mean, that's a great time. So we can talk about cat milking with Weasel, and you can get all of our tens of fans engaged there. But yeah, we're looking forward to next season, hopefully. I'm really working on a new bot, so it's hoping I can get it done and not have to bring back Hydra. Unfortunately, that is the case. I know the bot can do great. It's going to win more than 50% of its matches with me driving. Somebody else driving, that's might be different. But, I want a big weapon, and I want to play the ground game. I want to be able to drive around the box where I want to actually show off skill instead of getting trolled every match. Oh, you just sit in the middle and camp. You just sit in the middle of camp. I can't move, man. You can see me stopping. It's not me stopping. It's the floor stopping. So, yeah.
Time for something new then from Team Waiachi.
So what?
Time for something new from Team Waiachi.
At least one thing new.
Okay.
Maybe 2 things new.
Ooh.
I know the old Fusion is maybe out to pasture already. We sold off most of it as it is, so I'm hoping that we can get that one dialed in so it doesn't start on fire so many times. Maybe we'll call it Cold Fusion next, so it's icy themed.
Nice.
I like it. Jake, thank you so much for your time. As always, you've been extremely entertaining and good value, and yeah, hopefully.
Well, okay value, I guess. You got to take it with a grain of salt.
No, absolutely not. Honest, it's always like very interesting. And, like, kind of, you do give a lot of different takes to what a lot of the community do. So it's always really interesting to hear what you have
That's
to say.
because they just like blowing smoke up everybody's ass. I tell them how it is.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah, honestly, thank you for your time, and hopefully you'll join us again at some point, maybe later this season, maybe next season. Who knows?
After I win the nut.
Yeah.
Okay.
You're gonna have to have me on, right?
That's it.
We've heard it here first. With that said, though, I have been Sam at 64.
I have been World of Woodrow.
And I am Jake Ewert.
And myself and Jevon, hopefully Steve, will see you next week for more BattleBots. We'll
Yeah,
see
you
then.
bum, Steve. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely called out. We'll see you next time. Take care, everyone.